crime investigation, cyber security as a whole is the role of LES. So we will be having three distinct speakers. I would introduce one by one as the time comes. So I will not take a lot of time because we want to listen from there, and then after the discussion we will be having question answers. So we will open the forum for the discussion. So I would request Sri Hitesh sir to share his thoughts in the role of forensics investigation and the today's landscape, and what will be the way ahead in looking after this handling this crimes.
Thank you very much. First of all, I would like to thank Dr. Naveen Chaudhary for inviting, and again congratulating him for being selected as the technical member in the committee of Pegasus investigation. As Parag rightly told you that we are investigating number of cybercrime cases across. I mean, they have been referred from different states, from all the central law enforcement agencies, right from NIA to, you can say, ED, DRI, income tax, all they are sending their very crucial cases, and which has been not solved by their labs that have been referred here. So we are having here a state-of-the-art facility in the lab. During the course of investigation, we come across a number of challenges that I would like to put forward to the August gathering. And if anybody has any question, I will be happy to take it up. First of all, as the theme says that changing landscape. Landscape is changing, globally, but where people are now thinking of the use of AI in committing crime. AI-powered malware. So this type of things are happening. I mean, even using AI for deepfake. So they are generating avatars and all that, and even creating a video which people feel that this is a video which is original one, or this not tampered one, or nobody has done any morphing or editing or anything like that, but it's a real one. And then accordingly they commit the crime using this type of avatars and all that. So that is happening in the developed countries. Even it may be happening in across our country also, but not reported much. Same way people are using the cryptocurrency for money laundering cases, and even for the bribe also. And we are nowhere into how to investigate the cases related to this type of cases. I mean, when there is in cryptocurrency, how to reach to the exact location from where this particular transaction has taken place. So these are the changing landscape we say, but what we feel that even as of now, as of today, in India, we are facing, even in the, we have not come out of the disk forensic and mobile forensics. And at some extent up to the DVR level, or network forensic even is in the nascent stage. So we need to work more onto those areas, but even we feel that even disk forensic and mobile forensics, we are facing a lot of challenges. I mean, the first and most very important challenge that I can see is this: there is no common SOPs across India. Everybody is doing in silos, and everybody has their own SOPs to work on particular type of crime or handling the particular type of electronic device. So that is need to be addressed. I think NFSU can do they can play a much bigger role into this type of thing. So that is the way forward, we can say, in that particular issue. Similarly, what we have seen is even the law enforcement agencies, mostly they are making some primary mistakes, because of which the evidential value lost. Even if they've been submitted to the forensic lab, they retrieve certain things out of that and they put it forward to the court. But the basic mistake that has been committed at the time of seizure, so that is also a very challenge, because then we also need to strengthen the things. Every electronic device should be seized in a proper, well-defined, or we can say so that a chain of custody is maintained. In that way, it should be collected. But still, there is a problem. We can see number of cases. There is a basic problem, and even they don't know what can be expected out of this data. Means once you submitted a mobile phone, what is you are expecting? That is a challenge, because they just want what we have seen, because there are some law enforcement agency people are here. I just want to tell them that they narrate the incident in 4-5 lines, and they want FSL to submit a complete report out of that, which is next to impossible. But because you need to understand the exact time, and then only it is feasible or is possible to extract the information relevant to that. Apart that apart from this type of mistake law enforcement is making, even in the of FSLs also, we have a number of FSL. I mean, every state has their own FSL, and there are 4-5 center forensic labs also. But again, there is a lack of trained staff. If they have some tools, as Lieutenant General Rajesh Pan told, that Celebrite or some oxygen or NCASE, FTA, even the police station level in Gujarat, in the range area, they have all these tools. But the issue is that if you retrieve the whatever data and how to make it an evidence. Evidence means the information or data which is relevant to the fact and it is admissible in the court. So that part is totally missing. Everybody is just retrieving the data, put it in a hard disk or a CD, or sometimes take the printouts and submit it to the court. So when it comes to the court for the deposition, then these criminals, they are much smarter, and they have a good access to the Google, and through Google they find out so many things, and they ask for the whether this evidence is validated or not. So then it is a problem. So why people are coming from different state to this lab is the reason is that we give a complete report wherever it is required. Sometimes police people ask that you just give us the data. So that is fine, we give the data. But sometimes they want the analysis also. So in analysis, we give a complete report why it has happened, how it has happened, and what kind of evidence is there. And then we give a complete picture of that incident, and then they are able to, I mean, court is always appreciating those things, because we can't expect from the judiciary that they just look at the data and appreciate the evidence. So that is why we want to police to come whenever you are submitting the evidence to the FSL, you should write very pinpointedly what you are looking for. And if you are not aware of what can be retrieved from this, you can always contact the forensic person, and then it can be shared with you. Now coming to the next challenge is the voluminous data. Across if we can talk about 10 years before, it was very small hard disk, and you have to analyze those things and submit the data. But recently we found that in number of cases they are submitting 30-40 hard disks from the, if we talk about ED, DRI or income tax, they seize number of hard disks and they submit it to the lab and to analyze those things. That is also a challenge. In one case of the central agency, we have 2 trillion of just documents, and out of that we have to find out the linkages between, hidden linkages between different agency and a different entity, and then that was a very we can say a very big task, and that somehow we are able to analyze those things. But there also we feel that we can come out with some solution. There are some ready-made solutions are available, but they are very costly. So NFSU can do a better job into that. They can provide us some solution so that we can analyze those things much faster. Apart from that, there is one big challenge is the encryption. We have faced a number of cases where the mobile phone is password protected. There are some tools which can remove the password or which can give you a password, but that was an old story. In 2019, that's a landmark time, I can say, when Samsung has come out with the they moved from S9 to S10, they come out with the from full disk encryption to file disk encryption. So full disk encryption, only one decryption key you need. One decryption key you are having, and you can decrypt everything and you can extract whatever information is there. But when it comes to file-based encryption, every file has a different decryption key. So when you are deleting that file, first of all, that decryption key is removed from that table where the decryption data is maintained. And because of that, even if the file is there, you can't. I mean, you are recovering the deleted data, you are recovering that file, but you can't play that file, you can't open that file, you can't access those things. So that is a bigger challenge. So that's why because of that only, say for example, Note 10, Note 20, even iPhone 12 Pro Max and all that, to access data from those things is really a challenge. And there are sometimes we are able to do it if the phone is on and it was unlocked once, then we can do certain things, but not every time, and not in every model of the mobile phone. So that is, encryption is really a big challenge, and it will always remain, because once you come out with the solution, there will be another encryption level, and then again you have to take that challenge. But we need to cope up with this type of problems. Then we are facing in cloud-based data. Whenever there is a cloud-based data, how to extract that information and make it relevant to the incident. And the artifacts that we are retrieving from the cloud, that also should be relevant. And in number of cases, you are not finding, cooperation from the cloud service provider. And in that case, also it is very difficult to get this information and to prove the case beyond doubt. So, as you must be knowing that this is an evidence, as per the evidence category, it's a document type of evidence. There are two types of evidence in the evidence, as per the Evidence Act. One is the oral one, and other one is document. And this is documented. So documented evidence, wherever it's a secondary evidence, it's not the primary. So if you are not providing the all other information along with the whatever information you are, data you are extracting, so we need some metadata and some interpretation out of that, then only we can make it relevant. So that is missing across forensic report. In number of those, there you need a training. So we already NFSU is doing a lot of things into this. They are trying to train the FSL people also. So that is the area where we need we need to improve upon. So that is a very crucial part, because that is going to be submitted into the court. And I just want to brief you that just Lieutenant Rajesh Khan told that there are only 7 labs which is accredited under 79A of RT Act 2000. So we are we were the first in the country to get this certification, and our all examiners are certified electronics examiners. So that's why their report is also acceptable in the court also. So with that, I rest my speech. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Very valuable points and the need of the hour, what exactly needs to be done. So there is a big question. There are many people, and there was a debate on LinkedIn also, that digital forensics or the forensics is not a part of cybersecurity. But there is a close relationship between forensics and security. So our Honorable Vice Chancellor always used the term that security is a kind of preventive forensics. Now, the fundamental idea is that if you have any crime committed, any crime reported, and it is getting investigated, and after the investigation you apply the security so that the similar kind of crimes are not committed again. So security and forensics go in hand to hand, and the comments shared by respected Sanvi sir are highly valuable, because that sets the base for the security. And we are fortunate to have with us, we here at NFSU, you must have this Cyber Defense Center brochure in your folder. So we are fortunate to have that facility here, the world's best facility, Cyber Defense Center. And we are fortunate to have with us the Dean of School of Cybersecurity and Digital Forensics, and Head of the Center of Cyber Defense Center and Head of Center of International Relations with us, Professor Naveen Chaudhary. He has already been introduced, so I will not take a lot of time in introducing him, and I would request Naveen sir to share his thoughts in this particular topic about the cybersecurity preparation from the country's level, what NFSU is doing, and what would be the upcoming challenges from the cybersecurity point of view. Sir, over to you.
Namaskar. Thank you, Dr. Parag, for handing over floor to me. I have some exposure in a government wherein I worked at national level also and at international level also. And I handled some cyber security investigation also, earlier also. So with this backdrop and whatever experience I have here in the university while interacting with the law enforcement agencies, I will share my point of view, that what are the challenges and then what is the way ahead. So first of all, if you look back, you will find that the cyberspace has grown in size and magnitude. But now the major issue is that it has also increased the reach and access of cyber criminals. So the internet happened, broadband came, with the smartphone coming, internet, it came in your pocket, everything was good, technology was evolving, Everyone wanted to have best part of the technology because it definitely improved the living standard of the common mass. So everyone saw the benefit of the technology, but at the same time, the cyber criminals also found it, a place wherein they can play. So now what has happened? If you see, when you look back, when the cellular revolution happened, then the law enforcement agency was very happy because they were cracking most of the cases using the cellular evidences. They were tracking the network, they were tracking, the mobile phone, and through that they found that it is a, panacea, and that panacea can, help them in resolving the cases, cracking the cases. Similarly, intelligence agencies, they were very happy when there were that satellite phones. So the footprint of the satellite phone, if it is used by the terrorist, that indicated them the position of the terrorist. So it was a tool for them, so they can nab the terrorist. But then what has happened, that over a period of time, the technology has definitely been a big aid to the law enforcement agency in resolving the cases, in cracking the cases, in investigating the cases. But then so many of technology has come, and the way technology has evolved, diversified, the security of the technology has not been able to keep pace with that. And because of that, the criminals are taking advantage of those gaps. So if the technology comes into the market, it is not coming with the desired security standard which should be there. So that security is lagging behind, but technology is coming. Earlier the technology was military requirement driven, but of late technology is consumer driven. So if the consumer wants something, that technology is available. But at the same time, the security is also very, very important. Who will look into the security? Okay. Now, if you look into the police, what the challenges they are facing. Basically, in this network world, the major investigation which they do and what helps them in pinpointing the perpetrator of the crime is the tying up or linking that device which was used in the crime to the user of that device. And now that device can be only identified if you can identify the IP address of the device or the logical address of the device. But now there are technologies, and then you can resolve it into the geolocation, and then you can nab the criminal. But now the technology has come which maintains the anonymity, which encrypts the IP address, and it removes the source IP address from the network or from the device. So now, how you will be able to nab the criminal? Major challenge. So technology landscape has changed completely. 10 years back or 20 years back, from electronic domain, we were converging towards packetization domain. Now the packetization domain has matured. So everything is in 0 and 1, and everything is converging into IP, and from IP you are resolving the geolocation. But now when we talk about the technology like anonymous technology, privacy-oriented technology, they are anonymizing the user by encrypting the IP address. And as Mr. Sanghvi brought out, encryption, multi-factor authentication. So now not a single factor authentication, multi-factor authentication. And that too with different techniques. Okay, OTP, then your biometrics, and so many other techniques have come into the fore. So now, with this advanced encryption being used with a multi-factor authentication, the processing power which is required to crack this mechanism and get access to the device is very, very difficult. And then if you see that so many brands have come because of this diversification. Apple has a different multi-factor authentication. Samsung has different, Nokia has different. So, and then it's a proprietary algorithm. And since it is a proprietary algorithm, You don't have that, kind of technique and it is not available in open domain. So you don't understand what kind of algorithm they are using. So you are always trying to crack the, the device to get the access, but actually it is all, brute force. So kind of involvement which is required, effort which is required. And is there a technical proficiency to that scale? For example, even General Pant was mentioning digital forensics. I will add one more thing, that to be expert in digital forensics, you have to also understand the cyber security in totality. For example, if you want to do the forensics of a device, and unless you understand that what is password mechanism, what is rainbow table, what is dictionary attack, you will not be able to crack the access, and you will not be able to do, if you don't have access to that device, you will not be able to do the forensics of that device. So you have to understand the nuances of the cyber security to work as a forensic expert on the device. So that is also, I found that the law enforcement agencies, I have heard that now even STEM graduates are coming into the system. So they need to be trained, they need to be identified, and if required, a separate cadre of cyber specialists need to be built in the police, in the paramilitary forces, even in the intelligence agencies. A separate cadre is required, and they should be trained after their basic training. They should be given exposure on these things. Because why I am saying so, it is very important. Okay, fine. Computer forensics has matured to great extent, and our law enforcement agencies, they are doing wonderful job. Disk forensics has matured. Mobile forensics has matured to great extent. They are doing wonderful job. But what about drone forensics? What about distributed ledger technologies, cryptocurrency, blockchain? What about dark web, which not anonymizes your data, but it also anonymizes your IP address? What are those advanced malware? What we people are talking of earlier, when people used to talk of malware, they used to say, okay, user intervention is required, user has to click, or user was viewed to click, or user was targeted through a phishing attack. But now people are talking that no user interface is required. Earlier they used to call it double click malware. Then the concept came single click malware. Now there is a zero click malware. And now you understand this cyber security landscape has become very, very complex. Now, advanced persistent threat, the police forces who are working into intelligence of cyber security, the kind of advanced persistence threat you have during this COVID, pandemic is still going on. The countries, earlier it used to be told that it's a non-state actor. Now the state actors have come into the fore. And what they are doing, they are coming with a malware that is targeting a specific country, a specific critical national infrastructure. You must have heard that vaccines lab were targeted. You must have heard that earlier you only used to hear that defense installation was targeted. But these days, there's a paradigm shift. Vaccine labs are targeted, schools are targeted, okay. And besides that, there is the involvement of state actors. And these state actors, they are now settling their score with the hostile nations. So now this specially designed malware, so complex, and what Sanghvi sir has brought out, that with the AI coming into play, artificial intelligence, huge data, huge volume of data has come into play. How to mine the useful artifact from it, how to mine the evidence which you are looking from that huge data, IoT devices, so many IoT devices, then it pushes the data back. IoT device, because of because technology has become miniaturized now, so it does not hold the data, it pushes on a cloud. Now that cloud, that data storage or data center is not in your country, it's a virtual world. That data center is abroad. That data center may be in a country which may be hostile to you. So how to get that data? And cloud forensics, people don't understand cloud. It's a cheap service, okay, place it on cloud. But have you looked into the SLA of the cloud, service level agreement, that if any incident happens, then how to get that data? What is the legal assistance treaty? How to get that data from them? What is the accountability of the third service provider who has got the cloud infrastructure to you? So now that's why the law enforcement agencies are facing a lot of problems, even the cloud forensics. Emerging technology that has not been explored so far. Automobile, now the vehicles are becoming smart. Now in India, we are talking of a flying car. Now the kind of artifacts which that car can give, if the criminal has used that car for committing the crime, you can link that criminal with the car and you can get the artifact and you can create an entire crime scene. What Mr. Sangvi was trying to bring out, that when you write a report and the law enforcement agency, they are not rookie. Why most of the cases turned down by the court? Because it has not been presented well. The court has not been written well. So you see that today the vehicle which has come, it has a plethora of IoT devices. It has a Bluetooth, it has endpoint radio access, okay? It has your mobile cellular module, it has all your call details, it has a voice activated module, it has your voice signature also. Then it has got a GPS module. Now there are multiple GNSS modules are there in the vehicle. We have got a Navic, Widow, we have got that GPS was earlier, it was only all in on GPS. So many technologies have come and it is there in your vehicle, and if you are able to take out that ICT portion, it will help you in resolving the crime. Besides that, I add one more vertical. Have you heard about, because so many law enforcement people are sitting here, have you heard about operational technology? The kind of, the cars have become so smart, and the kind of, automobile technology, they have gone into the, operational technology, where is a totally different kind of data structure is available to you. So the health statistics of the car, when it was switched on, when it was switched off, how long the engine was on, this can also help in corroborating with the crime. So do you have expertise to look into that kind of data, investigate that kind of data? So these are the challenges. We have to be futuristic. So this futuristic, if we want to be, people talk about modernization of police. I talk about modernization of a cyber specialist police. And how to do the capacity building. So there are 5-6 areas which need to be looked into. For example, now people have started calling drone as a terrorist drone. What happened in Satwari, Jammu? Nothing. Earlier people used to use a lot of human intelligence, lot of human intervention was required to conduct any sabotage activity. But what is happening now? You just send a drone, customize that drone, it will drop the payload, do the damage and go back to the handler. Since last year, 5-6 incidents has come into the media, major incident wherein drone was used by the hostile country and they did the damage, and how many perpetrators were identified? How many incidents were successfully concluded, means investigation was successfully concluded. So challenges are different. Emerging technology, IoT, cloud, then your embedded system, your this vehicle forensics, then your dark web, dark net, then lack of the human resource who can investigate this. So diversified technology. So now it's not only a policy level thinking is required, but at the same time the individual level thinking is also required. In a cyber security, what I say to my students, that to remain updated, to remain current, you have to study for at least 1 hour every day. Otherwise that degree will be as good as your MA in history. So same thing, law enforcement agencies, to remain intact, whatever they have learned in their training, besides that they have to be progressive in their outlook if they want to find out solutions. If you don't understand dark web, if you don't understand VPN, if you don't understand what is trail browser, you will not be able to resolve the crime related to the dark web. So how you will understand that? For that you have to inculcate a habit of regular reading, regular getting in touch, and as a faculty, we at a National Forensic Sciences University, we are a good resource person because we learn from you. Let me tell you, we learn from you. Because when you throw that case to us, it comes to us as a challenge, and there is a great deal of learning in it. I will not take much time because I have already exceeded the 10 minutes which was given to me. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for your comments. Specifically, the consumer-driven technologies, as sir has rightly mentioned, that we are very fast in adopting new technologies. Manufacturers are very fast in developing and providing new technologies and solutions. But the major concern of the security is somewhere missed out, and that is creating a lot of issues these days. One of the motives of these cyber criminals is to have the financial gain. And as the statistics suggest that during the COVID-19 and post-COVID-19 also, there is a huge jump in the number of financial frauds and cases which have been reported and which have been handled by the law enforcement agencies in the previous 2 years. Though there are few incidents, even we also experience that there are few small amounts which have been transferred illegally, then people even do not report that also. So there are many unlisted and unregistered incidents. So if we see the amount of crimes in the financial sector which have been coming up, to address this, we have the panelist with us, Sri Nilbara Dasgupta. He is IRS and Additional Director Investigation from Ahmedabad. So sir is having a lot of experience in handling financial fraud, and specifically one of the aspects of financial fraud is in terms of tax evasion and the irregularities in maintaining the balance sheets and the tax related crimes. He has more than 12 years of experience in this field, and he has solved many cases related to the financial fraud. So I would now request Sri Dasgupta sir to share his thoughts and how the financial sector is taking this change in the landscape and how much they are prepared to handle this type of crimes. So over to you.
Thank you. Thank you, Ganiji. He has been very magnanimous in his introduction. In fact, I would have preferred the panel to start like this because the teachers have spoken. We are in effect the consumers, being a part of the law enforcement arm of the Government of India. And specifically, I belong to the income tax department, the direct taxes vertical. So we are the consumers on one hand, we also are the limb. So to give an analogy, यहाँ ये brain था, and here is the limb which needs to take that and then perform out in the field. So the first problem that I can possibly enumerate, so why I wanted this to move like this is because I'll only talk about problems. I want the solution from the brain bank that's ahead of me and on the right of me, because we now deal with specifically combating tax evasion, combating black money, combating benami, all kinds of financial fraud, all kinds of financial offenses, specifically for my department from the direct taxes side, which is again a major revenue provider to the government. Now, as Professor Saab and Dr. Sanghi has already spoken, we have seen that the ecosystem, the landscape has changed altogether. Again, if you see the terminology, the only functions when we joined the system, the government, that we were really worried about protocol-wise were the Independence Day and the Republic Day functions. Now I have to worry about hash functions more. So that is a kind of sea change in the way we see technology evolving, and as a government organization, we have to keep up with that change. And as Professor Saab rightly pointed out, the gap in us being able to catch up is by the day increasing, and the only way to bridge that gap is to be progressive. We can't really be in silos anymore. For example, I have had some amount of investigation experience both at the operative level, at ADDD level, and also now as an additional level. I can speak from the recent experiences. In fact, last month, when we were out in an action, And we are dealing again, we are not dealing with the normal ATM scams or the phishing and the other such things. We are dealing with established corporate evasion. And when we are talking about that, we have to bring into force certain prerequisites that we have to deal with. First of all, the modern day entrepreneur is very tech savvy. So when we meet somebody, a CEO of a company or a CFO of a company or even a normal entrepreneur, he has a good Princeton degree with an additional, 4-5 courses in cybersecurity, in cyber forensics. He is aware that since his IP is very, very expensive, since it has intrinsic value, he has to also understand how to secure it. And added to that, of course, he has tons of money. So he has the whole private sector to provide customized forensic, customized security suites, which he can then understand, also apply and use in his company. Third, he even understands anti-forensics. So he understands that if in a near future the law enforcement agency catches up with him, how he would evade, how he would probably deceive the agency so that nothing incriminating comes into their hand. And fourth, even if I, with the knowledge that my teachers gave, with the brain bank that I have here, reach him and I get that incriminating document, he again has a battery of lawyers. He has the best in the business to argue his side before the court. Because I might do whatever I can, but eventually the court has to decide. And as professors have pointed out, the evidence, the chain of custody, the validation of that evidence, all these factors are extremely important eventually for my case to stand the scrutiny, the legal scrutiny. Now, coming to a very specific experience which we had last month, it didn't involve a huge amount of technical prowess. It just involved putting the phone on a factory reset mode. So we had our whole team outside the door, and our framework allows us to break open a receptacle or a door and get in if the person is not allowing us to get in. But we are in 21st century India. So the doors are not that gaw-wala doors. They are again electronic gates, electronic doors. So we couldn't break in. And the person got 10 to 15 minutes and he put his latest iPhone, he factory reset it. He let go of his personal memories. But we lost critical evidence. Now we were thinking about that back home. I mean, home is office for all of us. So we were thinking if we could use jammers, we can cut the system, the networks out. If we could probably do any kind of other physical thing also, we would probably be able to cut some wires or however we understand it. Disrupt his communication. But how do we prevent him from, wiping his handheld? And for a department such as ours, where we wouldn't get the DNA, the semen, the nail, for us, that critical data in his handheld or in his laptop or in his server is all that makes a case stand or nothing to be there. That is very critical incrementing evidence that we are missing out. So when we see from our point of view the challenges, so as Professor Saab was pointing out, most of it is now hosted both remotely and also in a distributed manner. So earlier we could use very simple metrics. For example, a very small metric that we used is, say there are corporate entities and suddenly we see that in certain ratios there is an abnormality. For example, a company is paying a ton of money to its auditor and its peers are not showing the same ratio of increase. It hinted that there is something naughty going on, something wrong going on there. Today, that company may very well make payments in Bitcoins, in Ethereum. So with the coming of cryptocurrency, with the coming of e-wallets, with the deregulation that has come into wealth, we, the regulators, have lost out on the most important control. That is, we don't have a base, we don't really know. The metrics have all gone haywire. So for us to be able to go there, to be able to understand first of all what is the environment, what is the threat that we are faced with, what is it that we are actually, it is before our eyes but we are not being able to identify, is one of the most important things as a law enforcement agency, and especially at a level where I operate, where I have to deal with corporate offenses, financial offenses, frauds. We have the banks. We have the banks who help us. They have their anti-money laundering, the AML cells, who are supposed to pick up, because that's voluminous data, all right, and that's big data. So the banks help us by analyzing that data and giving, please tell me when I reach 8 minutes, I promised 10 minutes, right? So, because I have the host of problems, I don't have solutions. So the banks help us with the analysis of such data, and they give us what we call the suspicious transaction reports. So now in the action before the last action that I had, I was targeting certain bogus political parties. So we targeted 3 such bogus parties and 2 charitable organizations. So what we saw is that there was a huge difference in the way the banks were categorizing, the banks were analyzing and flagging off the data. So bank A, bank B were operating on a very different level. Again, I'm not really sure that's possible regulatorily because the analysis and the flagging has to follow a certain SOP. But what we saw is those parties which were actually doing a lot of money laundering in the sense that they were taking money from even government servants, professors and all, and then they were getting a commission and giving it back to them. And the political party had a EC registration, but beyond that it had nothing. So it had grown to such a level, we almost found 1,650 crores of laundering and scam in 4 days. And so they could have easily moved next. I was telling them, ab to tum ERP mein chale jao, SAP lagwa lo. If this is what you are able to do, that's the next thing. So for us to, in the bureaucracy, I have my officers who go out into the field. And as the scheme as the professor was saying, the way we work, you might have a commerce or a history or a English graduate who's going there as the head of the team. Of course, he will be trained. But with the changed landscape, with the changed ecosystem, we need to have people who guide us in the right way. And that is where a progressive thinking, insofar as I understand, is to be able to utilize something like the NFSU, utilize other private partners who coordinate with the government, insofar as the forensics is concerned, so that they are there guiding us, they are there telling us. And on the other hand, we also update ourselves, we also upskill ourselves to ask the right questions. As Sanvi was pointing out, that when we submit 13 hard disks, we need to understand what exactly it is that we are looking for. So we need to understand what is the deal that we want from them, what is it that we are looking forward to. And especially with the things that I work, it's very organic. So I sleep and the next day, the threat level has increased insofar as the capacity of the other party to become more superior. So for our department, we have already initiated discussions with NFSU because we have our CFL, but we would want them to upgrade that, and we would want them to be actively involved while we are going into an action, while we are hitting somebody, and so forth. We have also asked them that at an officer level, we need to have more skilling, more trainings, more symposia where we can sit and understand. Because first of all, we have to bridge that gap of interpretation and understanding. Otherwise, it will not make sense, even if the best of the brains are coming and talking to us, because it will all be jargon. That is the cyber forensics part of it. The second part of it, of course, I would not be taking time on that, is the cyber security part for the department. Of course, for that we have government the industry partners, who are integrated and who are helping us, and also in terms of big data analysis and the reports that we generate. And then, if we have something which is critical and the sensitivity of the information is important, how to secure that data. That's a completely different vertical that we are talking about. But I was limiting myself to the challenges that we face in another action of mine in Surat. He had shredders. He put the disk. He had disk shredders, and they are available in Amazon. So before we could reach the 4th floor, they had put the disk into the disk shredders. So it was just physically destroying the disk, and we didn't really know what to do. So these are small things, but have a long-term impact. I haven't even started talking about the cloud and the way the material is remotely stored, the application somewhere hosted, as Professor Saab said, in some other completely hostile territory. The application is somewhere else, the database is somewhere else. Then even simple things like a mobile device, even if we get through and we take a complete image of it, for WhatsApp data, which for us, for income tax, often gives a very good clue. If we don't take the encryption keys, if we don't get those while we are imaging them, then eventually at the end of it, we are left with almost nothing. Then how to ensure that the virtualization is done well in our CFLs, because if that is not done well, then we don't know. I mean, we haven't faced steganography yet, but we have now got information that even the assessees would want to use malware against us, not the other way around. So there are increasing problems, there are increasing challenges that we are facing every day. Small problems, big problems, and problems we don't even perceive as of now. So that is why, from a law enforcement agency point of view, I would hope that we are able to get that progression from just being silos to more integration of the department with the brain bank, with institutes such as NFSU, with FSLs, so that they help us and take us forward in having a better understanding, as also skill us that when we are out there, we are able to perform our job better. So I would like to just conclude by thanking the organizers, because I could come here. As I said, I'm the student, so I could understand it a little better, and hopefully I'll be able to take it forward and also share this with my folks there. And I do look forward to a long association with NFSU, and we hope that we can do the government's job better and in a more efficient and smooth manner. Thank you.
Thank you. So, in fact, one of the aspects of handling this issue is capacity building, and I'm happy to share that the Government of India has given us the mandate under the able leadership of Honorable Vice Chancellor Sir Campus Director, and we are working hard as a team with Professor Naveen Chaudhary to scale up the capacity in handling and combating the cyber crimes at the higher level. There are a few questions from my side, but I would prefer to get some questions from the audience. If there are a few questions, we can take 1 or 2 questions from audience, or maybe 3 questions, and then we can have the discussion. We have heard them, and we have now their opinion about the changing landscape, and if you have any questions, we kept this a limited audience gathering so that only high level of brainstorming can take place. So I would be happy to get the question. Panel members will look to see some questions if there are. If anyone has any point to make or any question. Okay, while sir, do you have any question at the end? Okay. So while if anyone has question, you can just ask the attendants, they are there. So while I get the questions, I would like to put a few things in front of you, whoever would like to answer. One of the challenges which we discussed is emerging technologies. So we know that in the country like 1.3 billion population, where we are dealing with a lot of issues, natural calamities and other things. However, as the technology has came in our pocket, everyone is now used to this technology. So how do you see this as a threat in the coming areas? Like we have already discussed, like technologies like drones are there, AI, cloud, a lot of things are there. Any important tips from your side to the audience, like what could be the best way to keep the pace with the increasing technology? Of course, progressive learning and the other aspects are there, but any specific tips that can help law enforcement agencies in keeping the pace with these technologies? If Naveen sir or Sanjay sir or if you'd like to. I would add that to that AI-based crimes are also increasing these days. So if you would like to add.
Very valid question, because people talk about artificial intelligence, but how many of us know that artificial intelligence has a black box problem? Okay, so the algorithm, the way the algorithm is working, and if you want to decode that algorithm, and based on that you are taking the decision, you will not be able to decode that algorithm. So that problem is called as black box problem. Okay. So when we talk, for example, when we say fine, we will be using artificial intelligence for the decision making. Okay. But at the same time, how the decision has been made by that algorithm, and that algorithm is not understood by you, that is a big challenge. And the artificial intelligence scientists, they call that problem as a black box problem. Okay. Now, so what I feel that if you this is my opinion, that if you really want to be updated with the technology, you have to think of 5 years hence, 10 years hence. The countries which are doing well, they have not only work at a policy level, they have not only work at a human resources level by training them, they have not only worked well on the research part, R&D part, but they have started pitching their work as a futuristic work. So they think that if the problem is going to be faced in the next 5 years or 10 years, the work has to start now. And especially with the law enforcement agency, their SOPs are well worked out, their procedure, their drills are very precise. But then at the same time, as long it was not a modernized force, technology driven force, it was fine. But now it is, the technology has to be brought in. And how to bring in that technology, that they have to be also futuristic. They have to identify where they are facing the challenges and how these challenges are going to be complex in the future. So they should share that with academic institutions. Even industry has a role to play. If they are looking for some product, not only today, they should think about that how this situation will be complex 5 years hence or 5 years from now. So they should include that feature in that product, and then they ask the industry that I want this box, and this box should not only be able to do this, but in the future, the box which you are giving me, it should be scalable. It should not only have a legacy interface, but it should have a futuristic interface also. So that kind of mindset has to come if we want to tackle the, what we call it, disruptive check technologies. And then definitely the very purpose of this conclave is to bring the industry, to bring the law enforcement agencies, to bring the people of BFSI sector on a one single platform. So let's understand each other. Because when we work in an isolated manner, if we restrain ourselves only to particular sector or to our domain, then we will not be able to work properly. Why? Because it's a virtual world. It doesn't have boundaries. So cyber security or even digital forensics, if you want to work properly, it doesn't have boundaries. So you have to understand each other's challenges, each other's problem, and it should be a collaborative, inclusive model. And that's why we thought, let's come together, let's discuss, and even if one useful point is being taken away by you after this session, it will serve the purpose of this session.
Thank you. So that's right. Like, we need to think ahead than the criminals, and we need to foresee the possible requirements in a collaborative phase. So regarding AI, I remember one headline which I read somewhere. Someone was talking about the autopilot cars and auto-driven cars, Tesla and other things. So there was a headline that what are the provisions if the car commits some crime, auto-driving car commits the crime. And then there was a line, it depends on the country where you are living. So many countries have already come up with the guidelines, policies, provisions in the act to handle such types of crime. But the major concern is whom to blame, whether it's algorithm, AI algorithm that has caused the accident, or whether it's the manufacturer or the driver who put it. So there are a lot of questions. I will take few minutes and I will put one questions from the law enforcement agency's point of view. Sir has already mentioned that they are handling these days big data, and that's voluminous data is a big challenge. Sir, any tips, Sanvi sir, in role of AI or role of latest technology? Because if latest technologies can be used by the criminals, we also can use the latest technologies in combating against crime and investigating.
See, if you want to handle big data, of course you need a good technology, that is for sure. But what I feel, because we always depend on the developed countries who are already doing this thing, but I suggest that we should learn how to cook a good food, and once your food is ready, don't wait for the silver fork, and taste the food. Whatever you are having, try it, because I have seen that people are, blindly going behind the different kind of technologies instead of having our own one. That's the key. If you want to go for big data analysis, we have a brain in India. That is no shortage of brain in India. Only thing is we should give them a proper platform. So we used to do that in FSL also. Whenever there is a need of any such tool, instead of depending on the foreign countries, we call them locally. Even in our Gandhinagar, we have some agency. They come up and help us, and that is what law enforcement agency has to do. There are so many resources. There is no dearth of resources in India. A brain is there. We just have to identify, and we have to utilize those things. The most important thing is you should know whom to use and when to use.
So I think indigenous software development or indigenous technologies can help us in speeding up the process of combating crime. So summarizing all this, I think there aren't any questions. Is there any question? If anyone else, sir?
Sir, I have these questions to Sanghvi sir, because FSL Gandhinagar is very well known for handling some of the crucial and the complex cases, specifically for the digital forensics, or I would say that electronic evidences. Sir, my question is, because you have a vast experience specifically in the investigation, could you tell us the 2 points which you specifically feel that very complex and very challenging for the FSL, specifically in the digital investigation? Because those 2 points could be a takeaway for these industries to work and take it for at a further level. Yes, sir.
So, first of all, the encryption, as I told, encryption is the biggest challenge, because if the data is encrypted and you are not able to decrypt it in time, because see, there are someone say that I have a system which will decrypt it after 6 months. You just put it, but delayed justice is injustice. So that injustice is not. So we have to do it in time. So that we need. We can say we can have some mechanism where decryption can be done very first, and secondly, of course, that is the big data analytics, because that can be also be used in forensics. In the same way, I have gone through some papers on internet that now AI is also used in digital forensic analysis. So that is also can be taken up by those who are interested in researching on this area.
Thank you, sir. Yes, sir. Sir, right.
Pardon me?
Yes, yeah.
So, to the professor, yesterday you would have seen the news. Facebook has changed the name to Meta. That is, they are looking at augmented reality, virtual reality as the new medium via which the millennial are going to operate, and they seem to try to monetize it. And the more the people are going to use that as a medium, I'm sure crimes are going to be increasing. So now that we as a security community know that okay, there is a area which is going to be bigger, hopefully in the near future, what kind of efforts do academia take in ensuring that the new generation of security professionals are trained, are made aware, and also do research on it? And second is, how can industry take advantage of universities like you to make sure we also are equipped to handle engines? Obviously, none of us today know how it is going to be, what kind of crimes can come in that virtual space, because end of the day it's virtual. So what are your thoughts on that, Professor?
Very relevant question, and even I have a same kind of thought process. So much of technology, you talk about AI, augmented reality, so much of virtualization, and if it is taken for advantage by the criminals, so how we are going to tackle it? First of all, even if you look into the good research, they always talk about the ethics part of the AI, even ethics part of the augmented reality. So technology, when you talk of, you can't disconnect the ethics part, first of all. So there was a very good paper published by the Harvard when this AI people started, talking about AI in a big way, and they flagged this issue. So I was very happy that some research was taken by the Harvard and they wanted to bring this ethics part of the technology. Let me assure you that even when we are designing curriculum, we are aware of this. Even in a Gujarat, one case has happened wherein it is suspected that the student is involved in committing a dark web-based crime. Okay. And the way he has used that technology for totally a flip side, that is a best case study. Okay. He has used your Tor browser. He has used one of the most encrypted, or you can say that a VPN which has a high grade of encryption, then a Trail OS. So now that young boy, if he's a young boy or young girl, where he learned all that, the flip side of the technology, or which can only be used by the hackers who have got a high level of proficiency. That okay. So now, when we are teaching our student the same technology, when we are teaching him dark web and darknet, if he gets into the wrong side of it, he can use that technology for committing the crime. So this is a major concern. So similarly, when you are saying that if you have the best of the technology, augmented reality, virtualization, if somebody use that technology for committing the crime, so the only issue, you can't stop him. The only thing is that as a teacher, as a school, as a university, we also need to bring ethics in our curriculum. So we have a full-fledged subject. We started BTech and MTech integrated course, and I took that responsibility on myself and with my professors. We said, let's design best of the course on ethics. And I took 2 months. I believe I took 2 months. I referred the syllabus of all the universities because I am aware of one of the cases with the Gujarat police is facing. So now, until unless I install or that ethical practice in my student, I will be defeated in my purpose. So that is very important. Second thing, that for people, senior people or executives who are in a profession, because what happens when they grow in service, because of their experience at a time, they feel that okay, even if because usually the technology is handled by the junior people or middle rung officials. So even if they give them advice, sir, this is right, this is wrong, they sometimes feel bad. They don't want to be ticked off. So now what I feel, even when I was in a government, I used to say that secretary level officers, even from anybody, joint secretary and above, because it is the cutting edge appointment, joint secretary, then additional secretary and secretary. So I used to tell them, okay, they may be very busy, but they should be given at least a 2 days or 3 days primer, because that ethics is very important, how to use that technology rightly. So they should be given a capsule course wherein they should be told or taught about the pros but the cons also of the technology and what is the ethics involved in it. And that capsule must contain a primer on ethics. So what I feel that this is the only way, let it be student, let it be government officials, let it be executives. A short course, they may be busy, and in that short course, beside technology, you must have a primer on ethics also, ethic part also.
Just want to add to this. You must have. You are talking about Facebook, especially, and Facebook. Some whistleblower has recently put into that. Even if the company itself is doing some mischief, so Professor has rightly pointed out that ethics is the only. Technology is not solution to everything. Somewhere you have to depend on ethics on the human being, because that is the weakest part as of today. Also, it's the weakest thing in the entire gamut of this security.
Thank you. I think that answers the question. AI, responsible AI is something which has been discussed a lot. Recently, NISP kicked off its first workshop on responsible AI and risk management. They are coming up with the guideline that will be available in 2023. So that was the first workshop that took place recently. So it's a big concern, and to summarize, I think we had very fruitful discussion. Thanks to all the panel members and audience for contributing. This takeaway, I think, would be, as the experts have suggested, we need to work in a collaborative environment and to ensure that we work harder than the criminals. We need to be focused on the same time to ensure that a person working in dark web or a person working in AI gets the expertise in that domain, because no one can be master of all the technologies. That is also something which we need to look after. The crimes will increase, the security needs to be improved a lot every day and night, and there is only one way to do is that we need to keep running. I think that would be something which we can take forward for including LEAs also. So I think with this we can conclude the panel discussion one, because there are two other panel discussions which we will be having on industry and BFSI sector, so that will also be very fruitful discussion there. So at the end of this discussion, I thank all the three experts for contributing and for devoting their time. Sanjay sir had already one commitment to attend a meeting, but we are thankful to him for prioritizing this thing and remaining present. Das Gupta Sahab, Navin sir is around, so we thank him also. So I take this opportunity to thank all the experts, and thank you all for listening. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. Now, I request Dr. Dharmesh Silagia, sir, Dean School of Forensic Science and Dean School of Medical Legal Studies, to come up for token of appreciation. I request him to give token of appreciation to Shri H.P. Sanghvi, sir, in charge director and additional director, DFS, Gujarat State. The token of appreciation to Shri Nilbhadra Das Gupta, sir, IRS, additional director, investigation, unit 1, Ahmedabad. Sorry, sir.